Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Chess Championship 2024. It is game 13 of what has been an incredible World Chess Championship so far. The score, as you can see there, Ding 6, Gukesh 6. Let's just get straight into it. We start as we began with a French defense. Gukesh has gone into this a couple of times. He went into it in the game one. He played the classical, and one other game he played the exchange. But today he goes back to the classical. And then continues from that line where he develops the knight, it gets kicked away and retreats back to d7. And here we get knight c to e2. It's the same thing he played in game 1. c5, c3, the knight develops, and here Gukesh makes the first change from what we've seen so far, a3. Ding said after his defeat in game 11 that he learned that he must spend more time in critical positions. And he must think this is a critical position because it takes him 17 minutes to play bishop to e7, which is fine. It's a developing move. He's going to be ready to castle shortly. Gukesh blitzes out bishop to e3. Ding spends some more time here. The engine thinks that a5 is the best, but you can also take the pawn and you can play b5. Ding chooses another plan, which is knight b6, hoping maybe to get his knight in here. We get Gukesh's knight jumping out, allowing him now to develop the light squared bishop. After takes, we get the knight jumping in, and the bishop just snaps off the knight. So take, and then we get knight to e2 again. b5, and now you can see Gukesh has spent some time. He spent some time after capturing back. If we just go back with bishop takes c4, he spent a couple of minutes to think about that, and then here he went knight to e2. So b5, this is the French plan. White attacks on the king side, black comes down here on the queen side. And it's such an imbalanced opening, which is why people play it. You play it to win or you play it to lose. And sometimes draws happen. But I do believe we've only had one draw, and that was in the very boring exchange game. So castles. And here the knight develops to c3, targeting this pawn. And you can push it forward and exchange it, but Ding opts to just play rook to b8, protecting it that way, rather than pushing it forward and getting it exchanged. Gukesh develops his knight out to h5, and the plan is very simple. He's going to bring his queen here and checkmate Ding. And, Ding's got to stop it, and he chooses a very interesting way of stopping it. He can just play king h8, and when the queen comes here, hope for the best. With rook g8 and stuff like that. But he plays f5. This is the most confrontational way to defend. Gukesh spends a lot of time. You can see he had an hour 17 to Ding's 44. He spends a significant portion of his time advantage to take en passant because it's not forced. Captures with the bishop. And now the only way for Gukesh to be better, you can see it's 0.7. Now it's 0.79, 0.8. If and only if on this move he takes the bishop, and you would get queen takes f6 and you play d5. And this is kind of the idea. Although it kind of goes against what Gukesh wants, this is the best way to play this position because it's take, and you take with the check, and then you play this position. He doesn't do that. He first starts with queen to f3, and then after queen e8, he takes like this, and now has to drop the queen back to e2. We get queen to g6, a very active move from Ding, and f3. And the reason you have to play f3 is because there is lurking here bishop to b7, and then various knight sacrifices with checkmate looming. So you can stop all that with f3. And then Ding gets to play rook f8, dropping the rook back to protect this bishop and to maybe come here and stop d5. We get rook a d1, and Ding retreats his knight. And this has happened several times in the game, where Ding makes a retreating move where he doesn't need to. The best move in this position, it's very difficult for the engine, it's rook to b7, but it's also happy with pawn to h6. Knight e7 is like almost +1 for white. So it's a very interesting move. And then we get this move. And it's given a brilliant mark because you can't take it. It looks like a sacrifice of a bishop. You can't take it because you get forked. That is the main idea. So Gukesh finds a really nice idea to relocate his bishop to now start causing black some problems. And you can see it starts harassing firstly the rook and then the knight. You can't obviously move the knight because it's now pinned to the rook. So we move the rook out the way, and here Gukesh is winning. Ding here, his best move is rook to d8. You got to hit the bishop, and still d5 is lurking, so you got to try and get control of this square. That's probably what the idea of knight e7 was. You can get your knight to that square. But instead he goes rook e8, and now takes, and Gukesh is still better, and he's still got a sizable advantage. But he kind of misplays it slightly. He starts with queen e5. The computer's just like, yo, bring your rooks or play h4 and target this queen. Queen e5 is the third choice of the engine, so can't mock it that much. But, could be more accurate, and that's probably been the story of this game, where Gukesh has been better for large portions of it, but hasn't quite been accurate enough. a6, just defending the b5 pawn so you can move the rook. And here we go, d5. e5, queen d5 with check, and the queen slides over for an exchange. Ding is more than happy to now exchange the pieces. He's probably had enough. So we get the queen sliding to c5. The rook drops back to protect the bishop should the queen get kicked. So the rook slides back, it protects this bishop because, there could be some lurking attacks on the queen. And we get that. Now, Ding here can sack his queen. I'm sure this is a line he calculated. He can take the queen for the two rooks and go like this. There's probably no need to create this much imbalance in the position. It's definitely playable for black and holding, but white with an active queen, these pawns become a bit loose, and your pieces here are not so coordinated. Probably not the best idea. The engine thinks it's completely fine for black and holding. Ding just moves his queen out of the way, queen to f7. We get the knight coming to e4, and Gukesh is going to start some active operations on Ding's king. Ding's kind of queenside pawns have not really gotten moving, so he's now got to worry about his king. So we get the only move. Everything else is losing. Initially, Ding said he wanted to play rook f7. That's what the first thought that crossed his mind. You can't play that. Rook f8 is the only move, because if you play rook f7, firstly, you have this fork, so you can't play that. You get forked. So you've got to avoid the fork, and it still comes in. So you avoid the triple fork, but you get the tempo on this queen. And even though you can take my queen, I take your queen. Gukesh avoids the queen trade because queen trade kind of dulls initiative. If the queens ever get traded, this will likely cease to a draw because the 3-on-2 will become a 1-on-nothing. But you can't create an outside pass pawn, which is what you really want. And this 3-on-2 with the kings on the same side will peter out. So we get queen f6. Ding happy for a queen trade. Queen trade gets avoided, king to h8 after the check. Rook comes in to try and infiltrate, and we get an offer of a rook trade. Ding doesn't trade on his opponent's terms, but rather brings his other rook. Lets it become more active when you trade. So takes. And here we get h6 because there is always, worries of knight checks. And the rook coming in and the rook coming this way. So you give your king some breathing room. And now Gukesh is maybe going to try and target those queenside pawns. That could be a bit delicate. We get the bishop finally sliding out. The bad French bishop. 38 moves it's taken for this bishop to come out. And haven't too much stress to you about time. They've both, used lots of time, but this is move 38. Ding's got 2 minutes 43. Gukesh has got 5 minutes 49. No one's going to flag, so it'll be all okay. The knight drops back. It hits the queen. The queen slides over, just touching the rook. So the queen can't really go too far. It needs to always stay tethered to the rook. So the rook slides up, harassing the bishop, and the bishop comes here to try and exchange itself for this knight. This knight is very powerful, so we can try and exchange it. And Gukesh says go right ahead. So both players have made the 40th move. Now, will someone win? Will someone lose? Or will this be another draw? We get rook to g8 because I don't know if you noticed there. Gukesh, by some miracle, if I can draw straight arrows, was threatening checkmate. How many of you would have blundered this on move 40 with low time? So Ding protects his king. We get h3, just giving Gukesh's king some breathing room. Check. And king to f2. You want to bring your king closer to the center in case queens get traded. The bishop exchanges itself. And now probably, this is just the draw. Gukesh missed his slight chance. And now Ding, if anyone, is going to have play. Ding's going to have the one with the better chances because he'll create a passed pawn here. It'll probably be reined in, but he's the one with hopes because his pawns are quite advanced. These pawns will take forever to get going, and it will expose White's king. So, c3, best way to liquidate. Now, if Gukesh wants to draw, he takes with the queen, we take, and shake hands. But Gukesh keeps queens on the board, he takes with the pawn, he gives up a3. So now, Ding has got his one hope, the a pawn. If he wants to win this game, he's going to have to invest in that a pawn. The king comes forward to just avoid being harassed as much as it can. Queen to b3. Now we're going to push this a pawn. And either it will queen and win Ding the game, or it will get captured. Because the problem is this rook here on g8. It's not active. It's not doing anything at the moment. It was preventing checkmate. So Ding is currently playing with his queen and hoping that the pawns can come through for him. So we get the rook going to e7, and Ding investing in his pawns, but he has to give one up. Eventually, he's only got his queen out, and the pawns have maybe gone just a fraction too far. a6, now you've got to go here. You can't go here. I mean, you can try and exchange it, but Ding rather gives it up, but grabs c3. So now he's got a clean passed a pawn. Oh, didn't mean to do that. My gosh, that spoils the game. Where were we? Yeah. Sorry, guys. Spoilers, I guess, but the a pawn goes there, and I suppose there's not much more to talk about. We get queen e1 check. King slides over to h7. You don't want to go out and get mated. Queen slides back over and gets traded. And now the b pawn gets 1, and this is just a draw. Gukesh tries as much as he can, as I'm going to just continue to click the forward arrow, and he brings his pawns as high up the board as he can, and Ding just waits for him. And eventually they repeat moves and make the draw. So we go into the final game tomorrow, evenly tied. Ding said in his post-match press conference, it's not going to be a quick draw, and they're going to try and do something. If they don't do anything, we will have playoffs. We will have tie breaks, and it'll be very, very exciting. They will play some really quick, rapid chess, which will stop all this, spending 30 minutes on move 6, and it'll be very exciting. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, comment on how I can improve, and subscribe if you want to see more from me.